Maybe a fourth. They're coming at him. He's made 6 and 7. Top the Broncos has made an 8. Oh, wow. No.
Well, here we go. Round 17 of the SuperCoach365 podcast. Ryan and Tommy back to talk the 4 games we've got coming up this week. Of course, a truncated round thanks to Origin 3, the decider. We look forward to that. But Tommy, as I welcome you in down the line tonight, somewhat fitting that as we go to air in round 17 that you are ranked 365th overall.
Yeah, g'day Ryan. Pretty good. Promoter's dream for us to be 365th, or myself anyway. Yeah, highest I've been all year as well, so I'm really happy about that. And we're heading into probably one of the most important rounds of the year this weekend.
Yeah, of course. I mean, 365, nothing to sneeze at. You'd love to be ranked number 1. There are some big scores going around, and hopefully you can match those this week in the final 8 or 9 rounds, whatever we've got left, heading into the run home. Of course, big show tonight, as we say, only the 4 games this weekend, but plenty to chat. We'll talk this weekend's footy, our trades this week, and I guess the all-important question, how many players should you have in round 17? We'll talk that and so much more of our listeners' questions as well. But Tommy, let's get straight into this. Round 16, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We do it every week, but kicking us off tonight, I'm going to kick us off. Good for me. Green Arrows last week, moving up into the top 4% overall. Still 14 trades remaining and 3 boosts as well. So I've stockpiled those with the back end of the year in mind. And hopefully it's going to pay dividends come those final 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, I have to say, in your case, like what you've maybe lacked in points, you've still got in trades and boosts. Like I think it's going to hold you in good stead for the rest of the year coming. My good, I had a lot of, it sounds like myself, but it was a really good weekend. Top 2%, probably one of the best I've had all year. Probably the best part was maybe getting Sean Lane in. He only got 72 or so, but just getting someone like that in to do a job, and he did a job, and then he'll be there this week again.
Yeah, real pod play. I don't know his ownership. You might know it better than I do, but I'm sure that he will be a popular pickup this week as well. Of course, the Eels playing the Tigers, and like you say there, he scored 70-odd points, and he's been doing it consistently for the Eels to this point of the season. For me, though, the bad, and I'm still talking second rowers while we're on the topic, Sitili Tupouniua. I think he's been my bad more times this year than I care to imagine, but he got shifted into the centres pre-game against the Panthers. I couldn't really do too much about it. Didn't have too many other non-playing reserves that I'd prefer to put in ahead of Sitili. I think he got something like less than 20 points once again. So not the first time he's done that to me this year, but hoping for a bounce back, or maybe his time's up. I'm still got to decide.
Yeah, usual suspect for you. I feel like you are kind of bad-mouthing him every week, and I'm surprised you still have him, but I guess you might have had other priorities to deal with. My bad, probably Isaiah Papali'i. I think a lot of people would have been in the same boat. Only 38 the other day. I almost put the captaincy on him. Once Cleary got around 80 or so, I thought I might just play it safe with Papali'i, but geez, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, plenty of rain around, of course. Nicho Hynes, he loves the wet conditions, that wet hair. He scored a 96, I think it was, or a 98 after recounts. So he's flying, Nicho. So too the Sharks, that good win against the Bulldogs. Let's talk some ugly, though. For me, it has to be watching Ryan Papenhuyzen score 135 points last week, and we said ahead of round 15, we have to rush to Ryan Papenhuyzen. It was almost drop tools to get him in. We didn't because he got COVID. That pushed his recovery or his return to play back another week. And sitting there with 7 minutes or 8 minutes to go, you're probably happy you didn't have Ryan Papenhuyzen, but how quickly that all changed.
I don't know if anyone, like a Tom Sangster or something, keeps these sort of stats, but has anyone ever scored more points in an 8-minute period? Like Papenhuyzen, I think he was on about 30 on the 72nd minute. He ended on 135 or so. Like, that's just unheard of, isn't it?
It's Tom Trbojevic of 2021-esque, what he produced. And only 2 tries. I say only 2 because so used to seeing Tommy Turbo last year scoring 2 and 3 tries. But yeah, I think what we saw from Ryan Papenhuyzen upon his return is going to make him a very popular pickup this week. Play without Paps at your peril, I'll say. That was my ugly. What about you?
Yeah, Paps looks almost a must. Ugly for me would be Campbell Graham's injury. We saw it on the night when it happened, sort of thing. His cheekbone instantly looked quite swollen, or eye socket, something on his face. He definitely didn't look right. He came back, which was a very surprising thing. I think everyone expected him not to come back. So that was good, but then he's going to be out for, they're saying, probably 3 to 4 weeks. So I think a lot of people, including myself, had him in purely for this round, being the bye round when Souths were playing. So it's pretty annoying.
Yep, he's been good to this point, and obviously a base stat beast in that centre wing slot. You're going to miss him. Of course, though, with the ugly comes a bit of good in that Isaiah Tass's spot somewhat assured for the rest of the season, or at least the next month, with Campbell Graham's injury in mind. Of course, that was our scores. I think I got about 1,200 in the end, Tommy, maybe a little bit more, because you captained Nicho Hynes over Nathan Cleary, and that's what it came down to in the end.
Yeah, Nico was kind of similar to Pappenhausen in a way, not as dynamic, but he got so many points late on in that game. He really started to come into his own. A lot of forced dropouts, and yeah, like you say, he plays well in the wet, doesn't he?
He does. Let's recap all of those scores from the NRL from last week. We'll run through these quite quickly. Of course, we speak of Ryan Pappenhausen there. He and the Melbourne Storm, I guess, lessened that deficit to just 6 points at full time. It looked like a convincing win to Manly at 1 point, 36 points to 30 in the end. The Knights, 38 points to 12 victors over the Titans. Edric Lee, what price you would have got about Edric Lee to top score the SuperCoach round last week? I think he churned out about 170. The Titans, they're in all sorts, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know if we really had them that high this year, but I didn't have them last, that's for sure. And yeah, Edric Lee 5 tries, that's pretty awesome. The Panthers beat the Roosters, very controversial game there, 26-18. The Sharks, as we just mentioned with Nicho Hynes, got over the Bulldogs 18-6 in an absolute swamp. And then probably the game of the round, I think, anyway, Cowboys-Broncos. Cowboys getting the job done there, 40 points to 26.
Yep, wrong graphic on your screen. Forgive you if you're watching on YouTube there. It says the Eels, rather the Cowboys, 40 to 26. They just continue to impress the Cowboys. I think Todd Payten won't be happy about the 26 points conceded, though. Of course, the Rabbitohs, surprise win of sorts over the Eels. I thought the Eels would get that done, but Latrell Mitchell, the Latrell factor, was a real force against the Eels. And again, like Pappenhausen, Latrell's going to be a popular trade-in target this weekend.
He is. Bolt from the blue in a way, and blue being the operative word. We all probably thought he was going to be in the Blues, but now he is, I guess, pledges allegiance to South. He's not going to play game 3, so he definitely becomes a major factor. On Sunday, we saw the Warriors have their first home game in 3 years. They beat the Tigers 22 points to 2, and the Raiders narrowly went down to the Dragons in the wet 12 points to 10.
And recapping as well as that, our scores in our overall group. We've got a new leader, Tommy. Let's Go Brandon has taken over from Troy and the Roosters pack here. Of course, I'm speaking of our listeners' overall group. You can find that, the code 576855. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen Rob, coach of Let's Go Brandon, the whole year. So maybe he's just scouting around and trying to pick up a bit of cash late on in the season, Robbie. He's doing a good job of it, though. Ranked 3rd overall. Troy, Roosters pack 4th overall. Of course, top 2 will take home $500, courtesy of Top Tippers. Second, will take home an NRL jersey of their choice. And I dare say, Troy, coach of the Roosters pack, he'll have his eyes on one of those tricolours shirts come the back end of the year at the very worst.
Absolutely, and it's great to see, as we say every week, members of our group, I guess, being so highly ranked 3rd and 4th, so that's just an awesome effort.
Shout out as well to Brandon Savage, coach of the Savage Turbos, of course, does the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I think he's coming about 13th in our group, but close enough to the top 100 overall, so no mean feat after 17 weeks, or heading into week 17. Of course, that's where we kick off on Thursday night, the Sharks and the Storm. This one at Shark Park, as it is. Of course, the Sharks without Sifa Talakai, who is in that Origin squad for Game 3. Nicho Hynes, though, I guess a surprise inclusion of sorts here for the Sharks. We thought he'd be the 18th man for the Blues, but relegated to jersey 19, and Jack Whiten will play that, emergency role for Brad Fittler should they need it on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I wonder if it was purely Freddie would prefer Whiten to be 18th man, or if maybe they realise, the Raiders aren't playing, the Sharks are, maybe we just let Nicho play for his club. I don't know. It's definitely worked in the favour of super coaches, but at the same time, I think everyone owns him by this point anyway, so it probably doesn't matter that much.
You spoke of the ugly with Campbell Graham to kick us off. Somewhat ugly Sifa Talakai holders. They've persisted and they've held out waiting for this week where he'd turn up in a bye-affected week, and he's not going to be there. Questions again, Connor Tracy, if he has a good game, can he maybe shift Sifa to a bench or a utility type role? Because I rate Connor as a outside back.
Yeah, I don't mind that shout at all. I have another mate who's a Sharks fan. He was saying the same thing today. He's thinking, if Connor plays really well on the weekend, which he always does when he gets a start for the Sharks, we could see Talakai maybe back to the second row. But yeah, you're right. It's been a very frustrating hold ever since his big scoring at the start of the year. He hasn't reached the same heights, and now he's not really playing the round we all wanted him to.
For the Storm, Dean Iremaiah looks to line up on that left wing. Nick Meaney, we thought he'd be in the 5'8 role last week, but the late shift saw him on that wing. He scored a try as well. He's averaging 60 points per game this year. Doing so quietly down there at the Storm, just performing, flying under the radar. Nikarima drops to 18th man. He had a couple of bad misses in defence, so no surprises there. Brandon Smith, another popular name in terms of trade-in targets perhaps this week. He's at a cut price, and with Harry Grant on origin duty, Smith could play some large minutes, and Josh King as well. He gets a start. So all eyes on the Storm forward pack, I guess.
Yeah, I think this game will have a lot of, SuperCoach interest this week, probably the most of all the 4 games. Just on Brandon Smith, obviously playing hooker this week. Once Harry Grant comes back, do we think he can go back to starting at lock, or do we see him back off the bench? Because that's a very important factor, I think.
And super coaches are going to have to answer that question as well, or at least react to the answer to that question. Of course, Josh King, such a tradesman-like performer he's been for so many teams this year. Brandon Smith, he just hasn't been himself, or at least not the 2021 version, which we came to love last year. Did score a try last week, so somewhat of a flashback to his efforts from last season. You mentioned it's going to be a popular game here for super coaches. In no small part due to the fact that if you are trading in Paps, which I expect many to do, Nicho Hynes is playing his second most owned player in the game. Is it worth trading in Paps this week, considering that, I don't know, it's going to be a pod play if you have him as a vice-captain or a captain. Of course, you can't captain and vice-captain Nicho Hynes and Ryan Papenhuyzen in the same game. So just something extra to consider for coaches bringing in Papenhuyzen this week.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I think you're right. You know, if you bring him in, you probably feel compelled at his price and his ceiling to throw a captaincy on him or a vice captaincy on him. But you're going to have to choose either him or Hynes because, like you say, you can't do both. So, yeah, tricky one there. And that will probably, determine a lot of people's scores this week.
Just a sign of how close this game is expected to be. Topsport.com.au head-to-head, $1.91 both of them. So take your pick there. Over under 37.5. So pretty standard in terms of the points scored or expected to be scored there. $1.90 that way. Anytime try scorers, you'd be a brave man to pick in this game. But I mean, we say it every week. Ronaldo and Katoa of the Sharks, they're just about good things most weeks. And of course, that other man we speak of there, Ryan Papenhuyzen, he'd probably be the favoured way for the Storm. In fact, those three are the top three in the market. You're getting about $2 for each of them.
Yeah, $2.26 for Papenhuyzen for me looks the go. Anytime they make a break, he's always going to be there in support. So he's a great chance to score. Just quickly on the Storm still, Grant Anderson, I picked him up last week and he obviously made some money. But, the way he played the other night, I was pretty happy to see his name in the team sheet this week because I thought it might not be there.
Yeah, it was, I think, Tim Williams of Beers and Break Evens fame over there at Bloke Studios and, of course, the SuperCoach Playbook. He tweeted Thursday afternoon, I think it was, in the lead-up to the game, he says, barring a Barry Crocker, a shocker, Grant Anderson's job security, he's pretty much locked on for the next 4 or 5 weeks. He had a Barry Crocker. Defensively was poor, and like you say there, it was probably a little bit of a surprise, a good surprise, in fact, to see him named this weekend. Anything else here, Tommy? Of course, Anderson, his break-even's quite high, though. It's around mid-30s, so this could be the last week, and we didn't get the cash flow that we were probably hoping for.
Yeah, it could be a short and sharp purchase. I mean, if he's just sitting there and you don't need that slot, maybe you just keep him there for the rest of the year, but yeah, he's not a keeper that you're going to want to play most weeks, that's for sure. He's not going to make you much money either.
The concern comes if he hangs around. Of course, I think news at Remus Smith, his season is done. He's re-injured his pec. Xavier Coates still out for a while as well. From this point onwards in the season, coaches are going to want to start nothing. And by that, I mean cashing out these guys who've made coin to players not playing to reduce the risk of that auto emergency nightmare. Suddenly, Anderson, who looked a good buy, could be the complete opposite. So that's probably the takeaway from that game. We'll have to wait on with bated breath how he performs. And if he comes out and scores well this week, well, then that all starts again. That one there, the only game on Thursday, leading into the only game on Friday, the Knights and the Rabbitohs. All eyes here on the return of Jaden Brayley, of course. A good news story for the Knights. They haven't had many good news stories this year. Bradman Best is back as well. And for the Rabbitohs, of course, we've already mentioned Campbell Graham and out. Latrell Mitchell looking to back up his flying performance first up against the Eels.
Yeah, how good was he? The Knights first, though. I think last week, although they only beat the Titans, they definitely showed some more signs of life, and their attack actually looked pretty good. And I think that was pretty good to see for super coaches, considering that, them playing the bye makes a few of their players viable options now.
Yeah, of course, and they've got some names out as well. But for Souths, of course, we mentioned Latrell, but again, we've already spoken of Isaiah Tass and what that means for him going forward. I think he looked quite good the other day against the Eels. Really challenged Will Penasini, who himself has been a surprise packet this year. But again, looking around the Rabbitohs, I guess we speak of uglies. What about Trent Peoples, not named this week? Someone that we would have been hoping to see if you brought him in a couple of weeks ago. He's not there for round 17.
No, pretty brutal. 2 games he played, so he didn't even get the price rise for the owners also. So pretty brutal. But there, I do agree with you on Tass. His break-even's only 12, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 12. So he's going to make more cash this week. He's obviously playing left centre for South, which we know historically is a great spot to be in. And with Campbell Graham out for, a month, he might be able to lock that down for the rest of the year. So, yeah, really hard to knock anyone who buys Tass this week for sure.
Campbell Graham out for a month, like you say there. Question being now to owners, and you were one of them, is he a sell? And at the same time, is Latrell Mitchell a buy? Because, what we've seen just from last week alone, it's going to be hard to sit back and watch Latrell. He might be a tough watch if you don't hold him.
Yeah, I think he will be. And the price for me, 610,000. I didn't know his price before this podcast. I just had a look for research purposes. I do a lot of research for this podcast, and I really thought it was going to be a lot more than extensive, a lot more than 610,000. So I think that's quite cheap for a player of his ability and his ceiling and his goal kicking. He's going to be a pretty good buy, I think.
Now, of course, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the Knights and obviously looking at this fixture and the run home. We tried to pinpoint a couple of players, or at least a player who we thought from the Knights who we could look to trade in for this week. I think we both landed on David Klemmer. Now, I've pulled out this stat. Talk about research. This is right up there with the best. David Klemmer, just a word of warning here before trading in Klemmer this week. David Klemmer is 5 points per game worse off when Kurt Mann is in the team. So, of course, you read his 64 season average, you think, hey, that's not bad for a front rower. Suddenly, that's 59 points per game when Mann is in the team. So, there's a few factors there, minutes played, and he got a sin bin last week as well. I know that hurts him, but all in all, you got to consider when Kurt Mann is in the team at 13, it may affect David Klemmer.
Yeah, I guess. I never would have thought of that. Do you think it's a causation or correlation thing? Because I don't know would Kurt Mann's presence really impact how Klemmer plays? I don't know.
I don't know, maybe less touches of the ball, less chances to offload, I'm not sure. But just something to consider if you are bringing in Big Clem this week. Of course, speaking of origin stories, he could have been a chance to make a return to the Blues fold, but not to be the case. They've gone with Jordan McLean. So I guess thoughts on that initially, and what's doing with David Klemmer's representative chances going forward?
Well, everyone seems to say, it's obviously just rumours and innuendo, but everyone seems to say that Klemmer and Freddie are off each other, and it's hard to argue when you see that he's picking Jordan McLean ahead of him. Like, I know McLean's not a bad player by any means, but Klemmer's been really good this year. He's played for the Blues before. It seems surprising that he's not even in the conversation. But what is New South Wales' loss is Newcastle's and SuperCoach's gain.
We might leave that game there. Of course, if you are having a play, topsport.com.au, $2.45, the Knights at home. They're getting 5.5 start as well. The Rabbitohs, $1.55 head-to-head. So not a bad price there for the Rabbitohs, but can they do it back-to-back weeks? That's the question. They haven't been a model of consistency so far this year.
No, they haven't, but I feel like if they do click, I'd almost like to take the minus 5.5, because if they do win, there's a good chance they could put another score on.
We wait, and that one, of course, Friday night, 7:55 p.m. kickoff, McDonald Jones Stadium. The venue there. That leads us into Sunday night footy. No afternoon games on Saturday. Of course, this one's 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Leichhardt Oval, the venue. $4 the West Tigers head-to-head. The Eels, $1.25, and that's probably about bang on given what we've seen from the Tigers, particularly last week. They would have been disappointed by that performance against the Warriors.
Yeah, I did think the Warriors were up for it, and the Warriors played okay, but yeah, the Tigers didn't offer much. Didn't really look like scoring that whole game, to be honest. They only had that penalty goal after the siren in the first half. So pretty sad day for them. Back at home at Leichhardt, I don't really know if they seem to lift at Leichhardt these days anyway, but
Yeah.
I think Parramatta will really be desperate to get back in the winning circle.
They were poor, weren't they, the Eels? And I guess that's the question which leads me here. Of course, we'll talk a bit of team news first. James Tarmow's back for the Tigers, if that matters. Fanua Pole, I guess, is a name which is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on this week. I think he scored about 44 points off the bench last week. He's $175,000, so bargain basement price there. I think he could be a popular trade in this week. Now, we say this on Tuesday night, not knowing of course, the run into Thursday night lockout. But I think Fanua Pole, at the price, given some downgrading options that will happen this time of year, he could be a popular pick.
Yeah, look, he's not someone I've looked at all, but stats don't lie, numbers don't lie. He's going to be cut price. He's going to make money. He's probably going to play the rest of the year, given how poor the Tigers are going and how pretty well he played on debut. So I don't mind it. But there's another Tigers forward. I know that you've done a lot of research on, and I'll let you take the floor.
Yes, of course. Okay, now we get to this point in the year and you're trying to make up ground. You're trying to find ranks. Joe Offahengawi. Now, you mentioned Sean Lane last week, Tommy, and I almost fell off the chair, and I would allow you to fall off the chair in shock and surprise as I say this. But 87 points last week. Now, let me read you some numbers here. Now, let me just find it. I wrote this somewhere. Big Joe O, 5% owned, 58 tackles versus the Warriors last week. Now, the next 4 games, the Tigers, they could be doing plenty of defence, I reckon. They have the Eels, of course, this week, then the Panthers, then the Cowboys, then the Broncos. If I had a pod alarm or a pod bell, I'd be ringing it right now, because I think he's 5% owned, like we say, but his true ownership, and his stats, of course, via SuperCoach Playbook, Stats HQ. If you haven't checked out Timmy Williams' Stats HQ, get on over to his website, check it out. He's 1% owned by the top 100, so he's one person owns him in the top 100, 2% owned by the top 1,000, and 2% owned by the top 5,000. So he's just really not owned. For mine, his last 3 scores of 83, 55, and 87, and before that an 88 and a 55 as well. 3-round average of 75, a 5-round average of 73.6. Those numbers don't lie. Joe Offahengawi, I think he could be a real season keeper if he keeps up those minutes and, of course, that base output.
Yeah, no, look, honestly, like you're saying, I did not expect you to say Joe Offahengawi this week at all, but his numbers, they're very good. Minutes-wise has been impressive. I didn't know he played that big in minutes, and then the base as well speaks 74 base. That's as high as you'll ever see the other day against the Warriors. And what you said there, the Tigers the next few weeks look to have some tough games. Tough games almost are good for forwards because it means they're going to have to do a lot more work and get a lot more base stats. So it almost works the opposite to the backs. So, yeah, I do like the shout.
$598,000. That's the only asking price. Oh, sorry, the only question in the query, the concern would be the asking price. That is bordering on, premium territory. It's more than Payne Haas. It's probably, I think it might even be more than Joe Tarpanay. It's definitely close to Isaiah Papali'i. It's getting up around the price where if you are bringing him in this week, you're probably going to have to be settled for even a small reduction in price. But if he's churning out points, like you say, all things are possible there. For the Eels, speaking of Papali'i, he'll be there. And again, a popular pickup and one of the more owned or most owned players this year. He'll be in that back row, of course. In the front row, though, Marata Niokore, he's going to fill in at prop, of course, with Junior Barlow on origin duty, Ryan Madison at lock. So a couple of reinforcements there for the Eels.
Yeah, I just don't know what to expect from Para. They just keep putting in amazing performances and then put in really bad ones. Really hard to say. I think this game, though, would have a lot of super coaches licking their lips just with, I guess, them playing the West Tigers. Players like Dylan Brown, Isaiah Papali'i, maybe even someone like Clint Gutherson could be someone you could look at getting in. He scores fairly well, still averaging 60 this year, only costing about $500K. So, yeah, I think Parramatta players are popular this weekend.
Yeah, they will be, of course. I guess one of those names that was popular a few weeks ago, you and I flirted with the idea of going early upon his return, was Maker Sivo. He's been shocking. Sorry if we tipped anyone into Maker upon his return. Just hasn't looked anywhere near his best. Clint Gutherson, like you say there, he's always around the footy, always a chance of scoring a try. $2.32 topsport.com.au, the third favoured way of the Parramatta players. Ken Marmalo, $2.70 anytime. Give me a little bit of that, I reckon. Whenever the Tigers score, he's usually the one. So about $3 for Kenny to score a try. He's probably the one I'd be looking at.
Backing a Tigers player to score any time, that's a tough ask, mate. I don't care who they're playing or if they're at home or what it is. But no real bet here for me. Maybe the overs. Maybe it'll just be a points fest on Saturday night.
Yeah, and of course, watch the rain around Sydney as well. There's been plenty of it this week, and Leichhardt Oval, it floods when someone leaves the tap on in the showers. So the amount of rain we've had, it could be an absolute a bog there on Saturday nights. Lead that game there, of course, Joe Offahingawi. I'm looking at him. I'm not sold entirely, but I'm definitely looking at Big Joe there of the Tigers. Last game of the week, Sunday afternoon footy. Good to see Sunday Arvo footy at Suncorp. The Broncos and the Dragons. The Broncos, of course, coming off a bad loss in terms of the defence, and Adam Reynolds looked in all sorts. Doesn't look like the player he did before his injury. The Dragons, though, they head up to Suncorp, of course, without Ben Hunt. It's going to be a big ask to do it without their captain.
Yeah, it is. And if you watch them play against the Raiders the other day, he was the best player on the field by a country mile. You know, people were laughing that he was top of the Daily M's. Well, he showed the other day how good he is. He just controlled that game and got them to victory. So really good. On the other side of the coin, like you say there, Adam Reynolds, he had a shocker the other night. And I don't know, I guess half the rugby league community probably thinks South made the right call now, maybe.
Yeah. Quickly, everyone was to jump down South's throat saying they should have kept him, but again, just struggling to string back-to-back games together. That was always the worry with the ageing Adam Reynolds. Team news, though, here, Tessie New is back at fullback. He takes over from Tamare Martin, who I think's done a rib, so he could be out for some time. Jordan Pereira on the wing for, who would it be, Cobbo in the Origin team. Palacia is back there as well with Ryan James. So those guys will fill in up front, of course, because Payne Haas, he's not playing Origin. He's out injured. Probably looking at another 2 to 3 weeks off Payne Haas. So the question there being 40% his ownership inside, well, that is his 40%, but his true ownership is 30% owned by the top 100, 35% owned by the top 1,000, 40% owned by the top 5,000. So if you're around the ranks, do you keep or do you sell Payne Haas and you just say that's enough for mine?
I think you got to get rid of him personally. I think there's too many other good options in his slot. You've got Isaiah Papali'i, Joe Tarpanay, even someone like Dave Clemmer or Joe Offengawi are scoring pretty well. Probably just too much money to have sitting there. Well, not too much money, but he's just a slot you could have someone really good in. So I would be getting rid of him. Tessie New, how long do we say that Tamara Martin is going to be out for? Did you?
I think it's at least a month. Could be longer.
Okay. Well, so will Tessie New hold that spot when Cobbo comes back, or do you reckon they'll throw Cobbo back there?
Yeah, I mean, they've got options, don't they? I thought Cobbo was pretty good at fullback the other day. Got involved, and although the game was out of reach, he still found a way to score a try. So, no, it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and that's it could make Cobbo an even better prospect for the run home. The Broncos' run beyond this week, not horrible as well, so keep an eye on that. They are expected to get the win, though, here. The Bronx, $1.75, topsport.com.au. The Dragons, $2.08 outsiders. The line, just 1.5, so expecting a close game here. Anything else here, though? I think some of those pod plays we spoke of, Ravalawa and Lomax for the Dragons weeks back, they just haven't kicked on, so they get another chance against the Broncos without a couple of troops.
Yeah, but honestly, the only pod I'd look at for Drags maybe Moses Sully. He's doing a good job lately. Probably another player I didn't expect to talk about this year, but he's playing really well. He's probably playing better than Lomax. So maybe him. Just quickly on the Broncos again, if you're looking for a player, I guess, at a rock bottom price who's playing, Zach Hosking is on debut, whoever that is. So that could be someone you could save some money with. And also just worth mentioning, I think Reece Walsh is going back to the Broncos. NRL 360 reported tonight.
Yeah, massive news. Dolphins fans like myself would be shattered that he won't be there in 2023 3 and beyond, because he has real marketability and, of course, some footy talent to go with it. Tommy, let's leave it there for this week. In terms of our previews, we're going to go to a quick break. On the other side, we're going to chat some captains, of course, our team updates, our trading places, and plenty of questions to get through this week as well. The Instagram followers, they've flooded the DMs this afternoon.
Having a bet on sport this week? Top this.
Whether you're into cricket and curling or golf and greyhounds, TopSport will let you on for plenty. And with literally hundreds of markets from your own backyard to the international stage, TopSport has you well covered. So if you want to get the top odds every time, bet with TopSport.
Top that. Download the app today. TopSport. Feel the excitement.
Don't let the game play you. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly.
Welcome back. SuperCoach365 podcast, proudly brought to you again this year by topsport.com.au. Massive shout out to Tristan and the team. They do a wonderful job. If you aren't a customer, you can sign up using the link in our Instagram bio. Click that, of course, sign up. Takes only a couple of minutes, and the guys will look after you, I'm sure. Do so responsibly if you are having a bet, Tommy, which I know you like. Let's look at State of Origin Game 3 very quickly before we do talk captains. New South Wales favourites. I was shocked when we spoke about this last week. They've actually come in $1.65, Queensland on the drift, $2.25 at Suncorp. So, again, I still can't believe that Queensland aren't at least $1.90.
Yeah, well, you've been to Suncorp. I've never been up there, but everyone speaks about how much of a cauldron it is and how hard it is to play there. But so that is obviously a factor that maybe I'm not taking into consideration enough. But I really like the Blues. I just think they were way too good in Game 2, and I just don't see the Maroons being able to flip it in 2.5 weeks.
What about the premiership market? Penrith, again, they've firmed in $2.20. Storm here, they're pretty much the only ones. In fact, the only other team under double figures, $3.60 the Storm. So if you like that way of playing, you think the Storm can at least make the grand final, you're getting $1.90 about them just to be there on grand final day. That's probably the way that I'd go. But the Panthers at $2.20, it's short, but given what we've seen, they're going to be very, very hard to beat again.
Yeah, if you had to bet, I'd probably still say Penrith is the play there. I'm not sure the Storm are the Storm of old this year. I just think even though they're letting in 36 points every now and then, that doesn't happen under Bellamy. He's looked pretty angry at them a few times this season, so I'm not sure if they're at their best. I think the Eels, I know they're a very hard team to follow, but $12 is maybe a bit harsh because they've proven that they can beat both Penrith and Melbourne away this year. So, on their day, they're the third best team in this comp.
A couple of others here. Top point scorer, you're getting a good price about Valentine Holmes, the current leader, $3.50. Ryan Pappenhausen, the favoured way there at $2.30. Nathan Cleary, a long way back at $7. So check that one out as well. And top try scorer, it's always a good market this time of year. You can sort of weigh up who's got what in terms of games upcoming versus where they sit on the rankings. $2.47, Alex Johnson, the favourite, but Taylor May for mine, $4.70. I think maybe one or two back, but Panthers probably an easier run than what Souths have coming up. Of course, we know that because we've looked at that in terms of their SuperCoach fixtures. Johnston, Campbell Graham, Latrell, Cody Walker, of course. So tough run for Souths, but Alex Johnston's still the favourite.
Yeah, it's a tough run, but they just go left, don't they? And Latrell in the team just makes Johnston so much better. So, yeah, I reckon Johnston might be able to hold on.
All of those markets, topsport.com.au. Like we say, if you are having a play, please do so responsibly. Tommy, let's talk captains for round 17, of course. Limited options given the limited games. And, of course, we've already spoke about the difficult question to answer on Thursday night. Nico Hines, Ryan Pappenhausen, in terms of a vice-captain or a captain even off the bat, where would you go?
Yeah, very hard, and it'll shape your week, whatever decision you make. I think I'll go Paps. I really do. Just the other night, he only played well for 10 minutes and he got 130. Hines obviously has a great ceiling too, but, Pappenhausen he's capable of ridiculous scores in SuperCoach. So
that's maybe gives away a bit of a spoiler there in terms of our trading places, of course, because you didn't have Paps last week, but we won't skip too far ahead. Okay, so you've answered the question, Pappenhausen over Hines. That's going to be something that a lot of coaches are going to have to answer very, very soon. Latrell Mitchell, any interest in Latrell Mitchell as a captain play if you are bringing him in this week? Because, like you say, the goal kicking up against Newcastle could see some points, both for Souths and for Latrell.
Yeah, it would definitely be a thought. But then again, if you did have him and you had Paps, it's probably another thing where you can't actually do it because they're both fullbacks.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about things like that. I suppose just on the topic of vice captaining, do you think you will use your vice captain on Thursday night, or you just straight captain someone?
I mean, probably good segue into the next game. The only other player that I'd look at captaining would be Isaiah Papali'i, potentially. So maybe I just go the vice again if it's Paps or if it's Hines. I don't own Latrell. I won't own Latrell this week. So it's probably one of those two, flip of a coin for mine, and then captain Papali'i, and then loop if need be. But what's a good score to loop this week, Tommy? You probably take less, more conservative, rain around, like we say. Probably just happy to lock in an 80 this week.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And just for those who still probably working out the loophole, this week will be a lot easier to loophole with a lot of players not playing. So you can easily just chuck on the captaincy to one of those, and you'll get your vice score, and you won't lose any scores either, because unless you have 17 players, which I doubt many do.
No, of course, some other names, I guess, if you're playing Parramatta, Dylan Brown, Mitch Moses, maybe over a Gutherson even. Moses with the goal kicking, and always in the mix in terms of try assists as well. Looking at that last game, I really couldn't throw up anyone's name for a captain option in that Broncos-Dragons game. So that's where we'll leave that. Of course, you can check out our Captain's Call on our Instagram. We do it every week, Wednesday sometime, about 8 p.m, 9 p.m. Every week at SuperCoach365. We'll give all of our thoughts on the best captaincy options heading into the new week. Tommy, let's talk our team updates. I want you to kick us off here because this is a bumper update. You've used the boost.
Yeah, probably the biggest trading week I've ever done since playing SuperCoach for the last few years. So massive. The boost has been used, as you say, 4 trades this week. Ryan Pappenhausen has to come in, as I alluded to a minute ago. He should be my vice captain or captain. Dylan Edwards has done a great job, but his time has come. And because Paps is just such a good player, it's no knock on Dylan Edwards. The next one was a surprise trade for me, but it's happened. Latrell's in. I was so taken by his game the other night against the Eels. I just want to have him for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Him and Paps will be my fullbacks, hope, for the rest of the season. Blake Taff is out. And he's the opposite Dylan Edwards. He's done nothing for me, unfortunately, Blake Taff. Carraz is out as well. He's made a lot of good money. I'll go to Isaiah Tass, who should make some money as well in that left centre role. And also, Campbell Graham, had to get rid of him due to the injury. In comes Tyson Frizzell. I'm not expecting the world from Frizzell, but he's pretty cheap. He'll do a job, and he plays this week, so ticks some boxes. Obviously, only 7 trades remaining now, so that's a big issue, and only $3,000.
So what's your plans beyond this week? Is it consolidating and only playing if injuries strike? Or, I mean, how are you going to run 7 trades left? It could get a bit tricky, particularly, round 23, 24, 25.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a risk because I'm really throwing the kitchen sink at this week, as we say. So I think in my mind, I've got about 21 to 22 players that will probably play most weeks, and I'll just take my pick from them. And, as long as there's not too many injuries, that should be enough with the 7 trades. And there's also not a lot of players out there that I can think of that I really need to have. Maybe Munster, and I could use one of the trades for him. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with my team.
Pretty rock solid there at 365th overall. You don't need to change too much. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. For me, though, just 1 trade this week. Again, I'm just playing this long game. I'm really hoping that come round 24, 25, that there is carnage and resting and all of that. Carraz out for mine to Ryan Pappenhausen. So just 1 trade for me. 12 trades remaining after that trade. 3 boosts as well, remaining salary of $151,400. So... look, I mean, I flirted with Joe Offahengawi, and there's some other names there that you could get in. Fanua Pola, the Tigers we've already spoken about. But I already own Tass, so no need to bring in the South's centre wing option there. Just 1 trade. I mean, I may make a couple more, but that's where my head and my heart are at currently. I just have to stick to my plan to stay solid, save the boost, save these trades until the last couple of weeks.
So 3 boosts remaining. I guess you really are focusing on those last few rounds. Do you have a rank you want to be within touching distance of the top 1,000, I guess, and then just go hard the last 2 weeks? Is that the plan?
Oh, I mean, I'd love to say I'm already in the top 1,000 by the last week, but realistically, no. I mean, last year, I said a couple of times on the podcast. This year, I think I was ranked 550th overall heading into the last week, and just carnage and resting and injuries and players pulling out last minute, and COVID obviously was a concern as well. I think I had 9 players of my available 20 available in that last week. So it just shows you that 11 players can suddenly drop. I'm sort of hoping that that's the case this year, and I'm on the other side to that. In terms of when I'm going to use my boosts, probably looking at next week, getting Munster back in if he's fit. There's some other names as well. Not going to talk about him yet in terms of trade targets, but look at the best teams and who's scoring well in the best teams. Low-owned players as well. But Munster's obviously one I want to bring back, like you say there. And then again, there's probably luxury trades sideways. Satili Tupanua, maybe to a Joe Offa-Hengawi or these types. But weighing it up, I'm happy to use the one trade this week because that's where I think I'm going to make up ground late.
Yeah, well, that's where your, advantage is at the moment. I don't think many other teams would have this many trades and this many boosts that you have. So if you can use them wisely over the next, 6 to 8 weeks, you should come home with a wet sail.
That's the plan. Okay, let's get into our, before we get into our listeners' questions, of course, we'll finalise all of our teams 7 p.m. Thursday at SuperCoach365. We put it up on Twitter, Facebook as well. That's where you'll get our final teams. We do add a little asterisk as well there if we made any moves after the podcast. So if you've listened on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and suddenly our teams look a little bit different on a Thursday, we are human. We do make changes late. Tommy, let's do some of these questions here. Listener Q&As. We'll fire them off. Rapid fire podcast tonight. Riley Milton 4 says, can Pappenhausen wait a week or is it a must-have? He already has Gutherson as a number at fullback this week. So are we diving into Ryan Pappenhausen? I think you and I both say yes.
Yeah, I think you have to. He's the best player playing this weekend, and there's numbers at a premium. I think you need someone like Paps.
We did a post the other day. Was sort of shocked by Ryan Pappenhausen's return. So he came back from injury for his first game in 53 days, away from home at Fortress Brookie, with a break-even of 142. Correction, that was probably around 118. He actually made money. So it just shows you what a threat Ryan Pappenhausen is. You'd be very brave to play the final 8 or so weeks without Ryan Pappenhausen. Cameron _Barter says he's Drinkwater to Latrell sideways.
I don't know. I probably think Latrell's slightly better, but I know you're a big Drinkwater fan, sir. So what do you think?
No, I agree. I don't think it's sideways. I think the fact that Drinkwater's not playing this week probably makes it, already there's a favour in Latrell's way. Drinkwater, yeah, I'm a massive fan, but like you say, there's plenty of reasons to get excited about Latrell. Similarly priced, I think maybe even Latrell cheaper, like you say there. South's run, that's probably the only question. They've had a good run, they haven't capitalised. It's going to get very hard, very quick for South. So, and Cowboys, the opposite of that. I think they have a pretty fair run home. So make up your mind there, but is it sideways? I'm going to say no. Blake's _Brushworks. Good to have you back, Blakey. Haven't seen you in these parts in a couple of weeks. He says, can you go without Paps? We've already answered it. I think the answer is no. I guess that 8-minute window was reason enough to say that you can't go without Pappenhausen.
Yeah, it was. I think the only reason you could go without him is to try and just be different and hope that he doesn't do much. But, it's pretty hard to watch a game with Paps in it when you're not owning him, isn't it?
To show you, like we've already said there in our TopSport Futures, to show you just how good Pappenhausen is, he's missed 6 weeks of footy. They had some pretty fair runs, fair games in that time. He's still the favourite way home for top point scorer. So it just shows you he's going to score tries, he's going to kick goals. Still the favourite way home. $2.30. Gamble responsibly. J _Theo says, what to do with Payne Haas? I think we both branded him with the sell.
Yeah, I think even when he comes back, his shoulder just hasn't been right all year. So I wouldn't be confident he'd play the rest of the year much at all.
Me either. Jack Murdoch says, here is Clemmer a safe to run home with. Front row forward alongside IPAP and Maxi King. He can't afford Tarpanay. So is Clemmer a safe run? He's safe, but doesn't have the ceiling like a Tarpanay does.
Yeah, pretty much spot on. I guess Joe Offa and Gowie. He's the front row forward as well, is he? Joe Offa?
He's dual, Joe. Big Joe.
So, yeah, you
Big
could
Joe
look at
train.
him as well, maybe.
You're getting on.
Maybe.
Get another boost. Jared 94 says, Adam Elliott, a hold or a sell. To be fair, I haven't looked at Adam Elliott a hell of a lot this year, so I guess given what's going on down there at the Raiders, maybe he's a sell.
I'd say sell only because Ricky put him on the bench the other day, and I never know what Ricky's going to do, and he's not playing this week either. So yeah, maybe get rid of him.
Alex Brigo says thoughts on Zach Hosking and Jed Cartwright. Look, I'll talk about Cartwright because I actually looked at him today in terms of a cash out option. He's not quite rock bottom price. He's not 175. You're paying $205,000 for him, so consider that. In terms of nothing, you probably want a genuine non-playing at 175 to make worth of everything that you've banked earlier. But in terms of Zach Hosking, I couldn't comment. I've never seen him, never heard of him.
No, it's one of those players that he might not even be in the SuperCoach game yet. I don't know. Yeah, maybe Zach Hosking just because he probably won't play again. And if you have, like you said before, you might have that auto emergency if Jed Cartwright gets on the bench and gets a 10 or something like that.
Just, yeah, with Souths, just have a look at the injuries that they've had as well. We can read it here. Who's out? They've got a couple of injuries. Hame Sele's out with a hamstring for a couple of weeks. I think they've
got Arrow and Murray in Origin, so that's how he's got in the team. So he might just be straight back out once Origin's over.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
sure.
Oh, of course, Liam Knight went down with an ACL in New South Wales Cup as well. That's what I'm thinking of. So he could hang around, but just a concern as well, looking at them purely for this week in terms of their bench makeup. They've got Michael Cheekham on the bench, who is traditionally, I guess, a back row centre utility, and Davey Moali as well. So I don't know, there's just an odd balance there for South, so I wouldn't be bringing in Cartwright, all things considered.
What a strange bench, just quickly. Nikorima, Taff, Cheekham, and Moali. It's three very small players. It's two diminutive players. It's a strange bench.
Yeah, we'll talk trades for Tom Burgess in our draft league once we hang up here. Rugby_league or Rugba_league says, do you think Jed Cartwright drops out next week? I think we've just sort of touched on that, so we'd say yes. Carol Fox says IPAP and Maddo is picking up Sean Lane playing with fire, having all three back rowers from the Parramatta Eels.
Yeah, this is an interesting point. I'd like to know your opinion on it too. Do you sort of hate when you have too many players from the same team? Because I personally do. I feel like you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And the Eels aren't very reliable.
Yeah, and like we saw last week, it only takes a bit of rain around and suddenly scores aren't as high. So if you can sort of divvy up, and I know we've had unseasonable rain really, and once in 100-year rain bombs every second week in Sydney. To answer your question, yes. Unless it's the Penrith Panthers, which I think I've had 6 and 7 of at different stages this year, I wouldn't be playing with 3 from the same team. What you get out of a IPAP, again, he's probably the best of those, to be fair. Madison, you could probably get elsewhere in a Tarpanay or better. Or our boy Big Joe. We're going to keep banging that Big Joe drum. Nolan Clark. Who should Campbell Graham go to? Who's the best 7 or 6 under 400k? So maybe playing some duels here? Under 400k?
Yeah, I found this tough because I wanted to go from Campbell Graham to a back CTW. I guess probably Isaiah Tass is definitely the standout for me. A lot of upside, low break even, left side for South. Beyond him, I think it's quite slim pickings out there. Yeah,
not much to look forward to there. In terms of the price, I think with centre wings, like by this time of year, after Origin, you really want to have the guns, right? Like the cheapies have done their job, but like we saw with Grant Anderson last week, you don't need that 12. You don't want that 12 heading into the final 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it may be. So in terms of playing under 400k, I think it's almost better to just cash out with enough and then put that money to better use elsewhere in a different position. Last question here again from Nolan Clark. Should I trade Drinkwater to Pappenhausen? It's been a running theme the whole podcast. It's Pappenhausen for Drinkwater. Would you bring him in?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect trade. I did Edwards to Pappenhausen, probably similar story with Drinkwater. You know, Drinkwater's done a really good job this year. I think it's a great time to go to the best player in SuperCoach.
Time to go to Ryan Pappenhausen. Drop tools for Paps. That's what we'll be doing, you and I both, and so to plenty of others. Round 17 podcast, Tommy. Of course, 4 games to look forward to this week, and Origin after that, so big couple of weeks.
Yep, final short round of the year, then Origin, and then 8 straight rounds of 8 games, so love this time of year.
Looking forward to all of that, of course. Don't go anywhere next week. We'll be back, same place, same time. We'll talk our round 18 trades in the run home. We might dive a little bit deeper into all of that. Between now and then though, find us Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at SuperCoach365, here on YouTube as well. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and we'll get back to you. Enjoy your round 17 footy.